Freddie Highmore, at the end of season 2 of Bates Motel, we really saw Norman go crazy. I mean, it was an absolutely delightful payoff to any of us following this. But it's now clear he has explained this. He has two personalities, and it's dissociative identity disorder, or what is it?
I mean, I think Kerry, one of the writers, along with Carlton, she sort of researched in greater detail than me a kind of scientific reason behind Norman, and behind the way sort of Norman has this split personality. And for me, it's always been reasonably clear from the start, whatever condition he may have, that there are those two sides to his personality, and he can't help but to switch between the two. And when he switches into the Norman that we have started to see more of as the show has gone on, then he doesn't remember what happens and loses control in sort of quite dangerous ways. So it's great fun to play. I mean, I think the first season was almost, in some ways, setting up sort of Norman's relationship, and getting on Norman's side. And the fun of the second season has been starting to push. So what point do you kind of keep supporting Norman as the nice kid, and how many things can he do? How manipulative, as I think we see him in the last couple of episodes, how manipulative he can be, without us losing our sympathy for him, and stretching that as far as it can go, which hopefully we'll carry on to do.
Because that really is your challenge as an actor, is to make him sympathetic. This guy's a killer. We know he's going to kill his mother someday. We don't know how. She doesn't know, but we all know Mama's going to end up in that chair, stuffed, in the Hitchcock movie a lot of years later. We don't know how she's going to get there, but we can reasonably guess Norman has something to do with it.
Has some sort of, yeah.
Yeah, by some sort of thing. But you've got to make him sympathetic. So how do you do that?
I guess I genuinely believe that Norman has redeemable features and is a nice guy, and it is a real tragedy in the sense that you know what's going to happen to Norman. We know what the end is. We know that the end is, to whether it's exactly or nearly the movie Psycho that we know. And so for me, it's been about playing against those the traps of Norman's nastier, more dangerous side that we might expect, and having that almost as an actor as a background from the start. You realise that you can play against that more, and kind of people will always arrive with this preconception that Norman Bates is a serial killer, and so you can use that and be the complete opposite, and people will still think, oh no, but there's something nasty underneath, and you don't have to play it. You don't have to kind of push it out or play it yourself, and it's much more kind of delicious to watch it change and to watch him descend. And it was important not to do too much too soon, I think, in terms of the series, and that helped in kind of keeping people on his side and remaining sympathetic, as you say.
There's a very serious message to this show to families like my own that had severe mental illness as a component that was very destructive to the family, and it's this, that if Norma would only acknowledge that Norman was sick, and Dylan says this in season 2, if you would only just get him help, but it's her blindness, right? I mean, isn't it that parents, and it was true in my family, I have a brother who was very, very ill, that if the parents could only accept that there's something obviously wrong and get the help, but they can't do it. There's just something about parents that they can't admit. What do you think it is?
I mean, I think the as you say, there's a certain blindness from Norma's part, but the saddest thing is that she knows, or she thinks she knows, that she's doing the right thing, and she's not kind of ignoring Norman's condition in order to push him further into it. She kind of ignores it in blanking it out from herself, but also she thinks that by carrying on being normal and attempting to, or their version of normality, whichever that is, I think, as Vera would always say, Norma is trying to do her best as a mother, and she's just got it completely wrong as to what that should be. But the saddest thing is she can, at the end of the season, at the end of every episode, think that I've done the best for my son. But the saddest thing is it isn't actually the case.
There's obvious decency to Norman, because one of the most poignant things in the finale episode was he tries to kill himself, and he tries to kill himself because he knows the monster's in there somewhere, and he wants to do the right thing, and it's put a stop. Talk about that aspect.
It was an amazing moment to be able to play, and certainly I hadn't. Carlton and Kerry kind of pitched it to me before I ended up getting the full script, and so it was this amazing kind of end that was yet to materialize on the page, but that you could see the sort of season mapping out to. And I think it is, from Norman's point of view, it was that thing of being so much in love with his mother. I mean, in a more general point of view, I think he kind of takes himself out of the world, or tries to, because he doesn't want to hurt people. But I think in particular he doesn't want to hurt his mother anymore. And so you have two people whose love for each other is so strong that they're prepared to kind of take their own life because they think it will have a positive impact on the other.
She even goes running after you in high heels. That had to be a hard scene for her. Let's talk about this love between these two, because part of the fun if you're going to do a serial killer, sicko TV show, part of the fun is go to the dangerous sexual aspects of this, the Oedipal complex. There is almost, isn't there? They don't express it overtly, but there is almost a sexual tension between Norman and Norma, right? And we see glimpses of it in the dance that you guys do, right? You invite her to dance.
The dance was fun, wasn't it? I always seem to refer to scenes on Bates Motel as fun, and people are like, no, they're not fun. They're either horrible or they're weird or creepy, but it's just great fun to play. And I think Vera and I approach it from different ways. So I often seem to kind of up this sense of, and it's perhaps our characters' perspectives. I kind of up Norman's creepiness or certain looks towards his mother and his desire that he obviously feels for her. And I think for Norma, she's in some ways sort of oblivious to it. But certainly there were some great, in episode 4, I think, when they're cuddled up in bed and they sort of spoon each other and there's a slight nibble of the ear, and it's just sort of building in all those things that are not quite over the borderline, but just sort of suggestive, and that's almost worse, I think, than showing something explicit. The kind of small, like, eyes closed as they fall asleep together in bed, and then you move on to the next scene and your mind kind of fills in the rest. And that's what I like about the show in general. It's not kind of conclusive. It doesn't say, oh look, here's Norman having sex in the first episode, and it would kind of ruin that tension completely. And so by not having it there, by having it a mere sort of possibility and perhaps something that happens kind of outside of the sort of main narrative arc that you see up till now, then it keeps it much more intriguing.
So what's going on with Norman's sex life here? He went off with this trashy chick this season. He has Emma. Emma is obviously the sweet, adorable, attractive girl. What is wrong with Norman? He cannot see. It's Emma. Don't go out with the trashy chick. Stick with her. Is he that crazy he can't see that?
He's gotta. I know. I'm sure he's going to realize at one point. I mean, there's certainly something to be resolved right at the start of season 3, with the way that he was slightly kind of manipulative towards her and saying, "Oh, please, Emma, stay," and I'd really appreciate it because I do like you. And there was a kind of even further scene, I think, that ended up being lost more along those lines. And so certainly at one point that's going to be revisited, and hopefully it ends up okay for Emma. There's a slight irony to playing Norman in that you don't want kind of these people who are great actors, and you don't want to kill them off, and then you end up saying, "Oh, sorry, I'm going to say goodbye to Miss Watson now. I'm more sorry about it," with the knowledge that you are never going to be killed and that you'll be there right until the end. And so all these people sort of fall around you and they think, "I know it's sad, but I guess I won't be touched. I'm the only one who will make it through."
They almost nailed you. Norman was putting that pipe at the end. Was that kind of hard to do, or was that set in the studio and not hard? I mean, was there any rough aspect to that, to your hostage stuff?
It was. I guess it was a little worse than I thought it was going to be. I had like my hands, they were kind of they were tied up like this, and because it took quite a bit of time to get them on and off, I ended up walking around most of the day like this, and would wake up. We did them maybe 2 or 3 days in a row, just shooting that one scene. And by the end, you sort of wake up in the night and you realize your hands were in the same position, or sort of shifting over in bed and thinking, oh no, I'm not in a box anymore. I can move my hands normally. And it was quite cold, I guess, in the Vancouver rain, out in the when Nick Ford kind of hauls me out under the rain towers in the middle of the night. That was nippy, but in some ways made it easier because there's less to fake. You know, if you are a little cold lying in a box, and you know that there's even worse when the rain is going to hit you afterwards, you're not looking forward to him hauling you out, and so it's like you just go along with it and play on that, which makes it easier, really, and great.
All right, there is a plot point I never found the answer to all season. You've got to explain this to me.
Oh no, maybe I won't be able to do it.
And I ran into Carlton Cuse and Vera Farmiga together at an NBC event, and I said, finally, you've got to explain to me, and I was about to pose the question, they got pulled away from me. So it's all up to you, Freddie. Here's the question. Who is Dylan's father really?
Really?
Because it's very confusing, because there's she says she was raped by this guy, her brother, and then it's introduced that maybe she's crazy and made this up. So was that ever resolved one way or the other? Who's Dylan's real dad?
No, I guess it's not. I guess the assumption, at least the assumption that I made, is that it is Caleb, as Norma says. But you're right. I mean, at the same time, Norma's hardly a kind of reliable narrator or someone to kind of take her word for gospel. So maybe it could end up that she's making it all up. But I don't think that she is. But maybe that's just me as Norman really being sort of believing Mother for what taking her.
Yeah, you're getting crazy yourself then. because
whatever she says is true. Okay, don't mess with her.
Because Caleb, as I recall, I don't remember specifically what he said. He had a version of what happened, which was, convincing, shall we say? Right.
Yeah. Another mystery to be solved next season.
Another mystery to be solved. What is happening next season? Do we know anything? What they're going to do?
No. I mean, I'll definitely be back. A
lot more people to kill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm preparing various weapons, and I think we're going to start shooting some point later in the summer, which will be great.
How close to the show do you get a script? Days, weeks, months?
We've been quite lucky on Bates Motel, and usually at least a couple of weeks before we're kind of shooting the scenes, we get the script in our hands. I mean, they write them as we go along, so you don't know the end when you start the first episode. Although playing Norman, I guess I'm lucky in having that kind of ultimate endpoint to always aim for, and there's not going to be a massive surprise that they say, oh no, actually you're not, unless Dylan becomes Norman or some weird twist. You can plan out your character arc without the need to know what happens in the 10th episode so much. But yeah, we're lucky in terms of them getting us the scripts not too near when we're shooting, and that helps to plan it out properly and prepare properly and mapping it out, arcing the characters and everything.
Well, that's the hardest thing, arcing the characters. When I was talking with Carlton and Vera, and we were just saying what the creative challenge of this show must be for the creators is you don't know how many, you've been renewed for a third season, obviously you're ahead doing that, but you know where the story's going long term, and so you want it to go quickly to the crazy part, which is now done. So you could tell that was the beauty of season. My one frustration with the first 2 seasons was I wanted to see more of the Dark Norman, and it was teased and it was winked at, and we saw visions of it. Now it's like, yay, he's crazy. Go, Norman, go. Take out the axe. Go run it through town. Take this one down. Go. And that's obviously going to happen. But you don't know if this is going 6 seasons, 7 seasons, how much to dangle that. How long can they keep Vera Farmiga around I know you don't have the answers to this question. I don't think
No.
Carlton has the answer to this question, or Kelly. But it is the challenge of structuring this story, because if you don't go there fast enough, and the series only goes 3 seasons or 4, it's not going to have much of a life long term. In terms of
No, of course.
binge watching on Netflix or something.
No, and I think it's a story that it obviously has an end point, and so it won't be one that goes on forever and ever. And I think you'd end up sacrificing the stories if you continually attempted to go back on yourself or return to the end of sort of season 2 and say, oh, we're going to start all over again in Norman's progression and descent towards insanity. But I guess having 10 episodes makes it move. There's no. It's not 12, 13, 14 per episode would start to stretch things, and I think 10 has been a good number so far.
We have a question from a poster named Land of Marcos, who is mentioning the fact that your college studies, he wants to know how those are going, and says that your Spanish skills are amazing. You are in Spain right now, right? And just finished up your exams?
Exactly, yeah. No, I just finished my finals at Cambridge on Monday, a couple of days ago. So we shall see how the results go, but hopefully I'll be graduating in a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. So I've been, again, sort of very lucky to combine acting and to have done that alongside Bates Motel, my studies at university. But nearly there, yeah. I think they went okay, but you never know. I guess they could just think, no, it's complete nonsense what you're writing, or oh, it's quite good, or who knows.
Nobody dares flunk Norman Bates. You wouldn't think you were the professor. What do you get in Britain? In the States we get a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree or whatever it is. What degree will you get when you graduate?
You get, I think at Cambridge you get a BA. They just everyone gets a BA, so the Bachelor of Arts. But then it changes into an MA after 4 years. So I think, you don't do anything. I think you go back 4 years later, and then they say, here, have an MA because we're sure you've been working on your studies in the meantime. I'm not too sure how it works. It's probably some sort of old traditional system that they wangle it somehow.
Okay. One of our posters wants to know. We have 2 award questions, and we'll wrap up there. The first is, Vera was just nominated for Critics' Choice Awards. She got nominated for the Emmy last year, etc. The show's getting on the awards map, and that's pretty great. But Vera, just in the last week, got a lot of this critical recognition. She certainly deserves it, right?
Oh, absolutely, of course, yeah. No, absolutely, 100%. She's fantastic.
Yeah. And a lot of people want to know about going back to Finding Neverland. We have posters who want to know if you're still in touch with Johnny Depp. And we want to know what your reactions were to you were SAG nominated by them in those days as part of, this young guy with a major award nomination. What was that like?
Yeah, I guess I was slightly... when you're young, you don't realize how lucky you are in some ways, and I think that's good to see it as normality. I wasn't sort of a kid on set thinking, oh, here are these stars that I'm working with, and here are these award ceremonies that I've always wanted to go to. I guess I was kept away from being involved in the kind of build-up to things, or kind of moving to LA and spending a long time thinking about awards and seeing that as being the important thing at sort of 10 years old. And so I guess having that separation really helped to kind of just have a normal childhood and not get sort of dragged into it too soon. But yeah, it's fantastic. And then I was nominated for the Critics' Choice last week as well, so that was...
Oh, you were? Okay, sorry, I overlooked it. Congratulations.
But no, Vera absolutely deserves all the plaudits.
Wonderful. Well, I'm a big fan of this. I'm not just an observer of the show and a viewer of the show. I'm a fan of the show. I think there's some real greatness going on there, and you guys deserve major Emmy nomination ahead. So Emmy voters watching this, keep this show in mind. Good luck to you, Freddie. Thanks so much for talking.
Thank you very much. Not at all. See you. Good to speak.
Same here. Bye-bye.
Bye.